Okay, well, for introductions, I'm Jess Cheadle. So I work for Colorado Natural Heritage Program, and I just officially got put into the role of program and volunteer coordinator. So we officially have someone like fully available to help with like volunteer outreach and partnership outreach. Um, Julie, if you've seen any messages from and emails as Julie has gotten started, she is also someone working in outreach, but she's a lot more trying to be on like the landowner permissions and media side, where I'll be more so the one kind of like direct contact for all of you, from like more of a volunteer engagement perspective in this front. But I'm sure you'll sometimes see both of our names just depending on who is sending out, if she's sending out media or a press release. But I've worked for CNHP for about a few years, did wetland ecology for 1 year, did botany and crew and project management last year, and now I'm here. So, and I hope I have some really cool things for you guys today, which Sally, do you want me to do? I can give a little bit of a overview in case we, like of the project itself,
Sure.
and kind of what we're looking for today. Um, so the reason I'm here is we're trying to create like materials for all of you that give like a better form of engagement with us. So we presently have a big project going on that we got funded essentially by like the Colorado Lottery, where we officially can map every rare plant and animal species in the state of Colorado. So where in the past, this is what we do for our work, but we're subject to grant funding. So maybe sometimes we get money from Boulder County or Broomfield or um, one of the counties in Colorado. We have to then go where the money goes. So we can only map or monitor and map rare plant and animal species there. But we now have this very, very large sum of money that allows us to do this big, big project over 5 years across the entire state in every single county, which is, yeah, it's exciting because it's like there's something, especially like the outer rim counties, we don't go, we just haven't had the chance to go there. And especially like if you're like really big on INAT, like in looking at observations, those areas are so undersurveyed, too, because they're like less traveled. So this is exciting. And any before I jump kind of onto the next train of thought, like any preliminary kind of questions that anyone here has about that, or what that project looks like.
So you have done a couple of really big surveys.
Mm-hmm.
You did one last year in Uray. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I was not at that survey, so I'm
Okay.
not quite sure actually what that was for. I've been involved on a few other projects. However, I will say this funding was technically given to us to start last year. This is technically year 2 out of 5 years, but last year we got the funding like in April. So we couldn't really have a plan of action. It was very like last minute, let's try to get some people out in the field collecting some data and preliminary, protocols. So I bet the thing that was in Uray was something that was for this project with some training, but I was not there for that one. Um, but our hope and like what we're hoping and doing with engaging with you all moving forward, um, is we clearly do not have enough bodies to be able to kind of go out there and survey all of Colorado, like and actually hit everywhere. Like we have technicians and scientists, but like our botany team is like you got like 4 people, or 5 or 6 people going out. Like so over 5 years is a lot of area we won't cover. And that's where we're like, people that love to be outside help us and who love plants. So with this, like we're helping and hoping, sorry, to recruit all of your help to go to areas or to go out there and essentially help us kind of create a more complete data set, that we can't do. And we have it like, of course, like we're doing very intensive plots for work, but the stuff that we'd be having you guys do is like not these, intensive plots. It's a much more fun, friendly, way to go about it. And like something that Sally, when I introduced this to her last week, was saying was like, it's like plant geocaching. Like sending you guys to go find the plants. So we've made a map and some materials so that it's not like we're just sending you out saying, here's our entire list of species ever that we're looking for, and here's a few counties that they're found in, but we want to send you very directly to areas where we know, or at least in the past, have seen the plants before. And then you guys, if you want to, look for it, tell us if it's there. If you find it, oh my God, that's amazing. And we chart that, and that goes into our system, and your name's attached to it. But that's sort of, we're wanting to give you more precise data than kind of 1,000 species list found in Boulder, sort of thing. Because I mean, the rare plants are already going to be very hard to find. So sorry, I know that was a lot. So today we have what we've made so far, and we're curious your guys' thoughts on how it looks, how it functions, what you think is good, what you think should be changed or added, as well as what trainings or materials or support we would need to start planning and building in order for, you guys to feel comfortable if you want it in the first place, and successful is sort of what we're looking at. Any kind of questions about that so far?
So this is kind of a
Well,
build. Go ahead.
Well, through this, are you going to be recording through iNaturalist like you do on the other projects? Yeah.
Yes.
Have you
Yes.
have you done any investigation of particular observers who happen to do a lot in some of the areas that you want to go to see
Like,
if you can connect with those people?
We have not. No, not yet. Like on INAT servers. No, but that's a great idea.
Because those are people who already know how to do it and are really interested in, in doing it and are already there.
Yeah. Right now, that's a phenomenal idea, actually. Right now, we've been kind of like, I'm actually going to share my screen for 1 second, if that's okay. To give a bit of a visual, if I can. Oh my word, I haven't used Zoom in a minute. I was like, where is?
It's the share thing in the middle of the screen on the bottom.
There we go. I was like, what in the world? Okay. So right now, and if you ever need to find more information on the survey, on our website, we have a statewide natural heritage survey website itself, which I can link in to a chat here. And that gives a lot of background on what we're doing. But so right now, what we have under engagement is like our INAT training we just had, which we have the slides and the recording. And that's something I would want you all and the broadbands, if anyone's participating in what we're about to suggest, to make sure to sign up for, to be on our CNHP INAT page. Because that way we will see what pictures you take. Like we will see, that's how we can track if you find a rare plant and animal species, like if you upload it to that CNHP group. And this training and recording, I can copy the link, will get you signed up properly. Because there's a certain boxes that need to be ticked. It's not necessarily just like joining a group. But after we did this training, what we had and what we provided at the time was just a CNHP tracking list. And this list is available for the whole public, but it gives you, like fish, amphibians, reptiles, mammals, everything from mosses to plants. And this is every single species, we're tracking as rare, but we only give you the name and the county it's been found in. And like, that's really great in a general sense, if people are ambitious and want to look around their county. We give the global ranking, the state ranking, but it's still very vague. And it's hard for you guys to then look for that stuff, like this stuff is already going to be hard enough to find. So what we're proposing, and it's kind of something we've been doing, and so I haven't reached out to anyone else. It's been as people have shown interest. because we think it'll come with some training, is this. So, can we all see this okay?
Yep.
Sweet. Also, if anyone has questions, like please stop me. I don't want to just like lecture at you guys, but I'll also like ask questions as we go. But so this essentially is a much more specific map of, all right, hey, I'm in Fort Collins. What species have been found, what rare plant species, so this is only plants, have been found near me? And each of these dots is what we would call like pretty much like an element occurrence. It's something of a rare, it's a rare plant that was found, but the thing is they were found like 20, 30, 40, 50, 80, 100 years ago. One of them in here is from like the 1890s. So it's more specific in that this is somewhere a rare plant has been found. It's somewhere that we need to go back and say, hey, are more rare plants here? Or are they actually gone? Or where are they in a sense, but the data is essentially like considered extant or like, sorry, well, historical. It just means it's older, like it's older and outdated. So these are points we'd actually love to get to as a company, like as an organization when we send our technicians out, but we have to go to like thousands of other points before we reach these. So we were like, this is great. We can give this to like the public and volunteers, and we can give them somewhere more specific to go look, essentially. As opposed to say, look for every single plant in Boulder County or, Larimer County, we could be like, hey, you click, here's this dot. It tells you, this is weld, but what species it is, essentially, and that it's been found there. Like, however, it was found there in 1995, So what we're proposing is essentially giving you all, if there is interest and your broadband's, access to this map. That way, when you go on trips or in your own free time or however you'd like, you can be like for instance, Anne is going to the Raywall Wilderness, which is like over here. And they're like, hey, are there specific species we should be looking for? And I can be like, oh yeah, look at this map. And they can see, where we're going, there has been found in the 1990s, Carex lasiocarpa. So they can go into that area, head to that point, and look for that species. So it's a bit more pointed, essentially, on the very bare bones of it.
And that's why I said it was like geocaching for plants. Because that's what geocaching is. You go to certain locations and you see if you can find the treasure.
And the treasure is a rare plant.
Does this seem at all interesting to you all?
Well, this basically is what we did with Uray, with Peggy and the plants that she had found 20 years ago, and we needed to go back and try to find them. So yeah, this is what we were doing for those.
Amazing.
But this is different because we had to stick in that county, and yeah, I don't know what anybody's done in Delta, but that would be really cool to check it out.
Well, like, for example, Jennifer or Fran or Chris, I'm looking at these plants like near Grand Junction or Colorado Springs or, the Four Corners region. And, would it be like an interesting outing to take folks on to look for these plants? Do you think it would be appealing to do this kind of geocaching? If, you had a picture of the plant and you had the specific location and could, Google map it and find it.
Yeah, Joyce Stevenson's taking us on a orchid walk next week. And we're gonna go to Diane Wren's property and find the orchids that she hasn't seen for years. And we're going to go by Ryman Creek and look for some more orchids that Joyce Stevenson has seen in years past. So we'll try it. We'll see if that's any of yours. Or if not, you'll have some new orchid sightings. But they're
Yes.
supposed to be pretty cool. So a lot of, we already have a lot of people that want to go.
No, that's pretty much like the idea of this, and like this interface. So there's definite, I want to say, training that would have to go with this. Like this is not going to be, it's not non-intuitive, but off the bat looking at it, like there's things we want you guys to fill out with it. And stuff like that. And I'd want to make sure if you guys were sending people out, either, I could have a rundown virtually, but ideally I know in person. That way we have our phones out, our laptops out, we can at least practice it. Is that something you guys think would be like a better way to kind of learn this stuff a little bit more in depth if the interest is there? Or is it something you'd rather have a recorded a recording of me kind of running through it, or both? What sort of stuff would make this, do you think, the most user-friendly as well as accessible? And I could also run through in a minute, like what we want you to fill out in here.
I'm trying to think
Having gone,
about, I'm
having
thinking
gone
about,
through the March
go ahead.
training, I personally think that in person would be extremely helpful, especially for, we've got a couple excellent botanists who are not computer savvy, and trying to learn this virtually is virtually impossible for them. I mean, they really need some more hands-on training. I think they'd be interested in participating, but the recording part, I've got the same problem with my Eagle work. I do it by hand and then transfer it. I can't do it on a phone. It just doesn't work for me that way. So anyway, that's my suggestion, is that we do schedule some in-person training.
I
And
think
Fran,
that's, oh, go ahead.
and Fran, what was your question also?
Jess, are you thinking that you want members of the Great Old Broads to participate, or is this something that would be, if I posted it on like my Instagram, and people who are going out hiking and going different places around Colorado? I mean, are you wanting that kind of public engagement, or do you want to limit it to the Great Old Broads?
Good question. So I think at the moment, I'm not necessarily wanting to only limit it to the Great Old Broads, but I don't want it to be public facing to where people are starting to do this without having any training first.
Okay.
Because I'd say like there's certain fields that we'd want you to fill in here, which is something you could do when you get home. If we could do it on a mobile app, like that's, mobilely, that's something I'm looking into, but it's also stuff that like we want, and I'll run through it in a very brief way in a minute, but that there's stuff and information and research that has to go into this before people go out, so I don't want to send people out nilly-willy or like say there are actually these rare plants are still here, I also want to make sure they know like what to look for, that we're not sending too many people out there and trampling happens. I think I want a little bit more of a formal way to track who's doing this, if that makes sense. And like, because I also want to create for all of us as we move forward, like a shared folder or teams where I'm also putting in rare plant guides, like printable training materials, stuff like that, that then, you guys can use, your broadbands can use, like the element occurrence form, if there's to take with them as they go to this stuff, checklists of, hey, before you go out to go look at one of these points, make sure you looked at this first, so that there's also a shared folder. And I think it's like, if people are interested in doing this, I'd be like, all right, I want to make sure they're semi-trained on it. I want to make sure that they're definitely people that are not like collectors as well. Like, and then, which is why no animals are in this. It's only plants. And that they also have access to any of the materials I have, like for them, sort of thing, if that kind of gives an idea. But anyone from Great Old Broads, because we work with you guys so directly, yes, like share it out to them, but I just want to make sure everyone feels comfortable, like, and informed. But, and I agree as well, Chris, I think in-person training is best as well, just to get, because it also will like have us show if there's bugs in this or confusions where we can now create materials to make something easier, and stuff like that. But I can show you guys sort of how this works and give a little bit of a general background if you guys want. But are there any other questions or thoughts before we kind of progress into that?
So just with how they can these folks communicate directly with you and just CC me, and so that I kind of know what's going on? And Fran, I might want to join you in one of these if you all decide to do this, because it sounds really fun.
Yeah.
It sounds crazy fun. I used to do geocaching. My brother-in-law gave us, one of those little GPS things, back in the 90s. So we just had fun with it. So I think it would be really fun to do with like a group outing, or a couple of different group outings, a way to, have some fun with this. Yeah, and if people can, book directly with you, like that'd be great.
I think that'd be easiest for me. And then especially like, so like, yeah, like if you're wherever your broadband is, can be like, hey, we're interested in doing this. Can we start talking about a time, days or however to plan a training? And I could start kind of, yeah, planning that. Cause this is now since as I start in June, 50% of my time as well, like a lot is given to this, so I can drive out and do anything like that. And we've also been talking about plausible ideas of, do we think it's good to go meet up with the crew that's out in the field and do a day with them as a training? Like how that training looks is also some feedback I want, if you guys have ideas that we think is the most effective. But so think on that as I go through this. Also, as I go through this, think of what's unclear, if anything needs to be added, and yeah, if any materials also need to be made. Um, would be the best and most helpful at the moment. So
This is Sally Thorson. I had a question. I mean, you're going
yeah,
to be looking for plants that flower, and I mean, a lot of them would be. So how does that work if you, by the time you get this going, it's like July and the plant's already bloomed? It's much harder to identify. So are you going to be able to provide us information on, here's what this astragalus looks like when it blooms, but after it's bloomed, it's going to look like this? So some things are going to really be harder to identify as some of us are in these areas that are quite dry all summer. We're not necessarily high elevation location. So how do you deal with the, bloom flower cycle on what you're looking for?
So we were actually talking about this yesterday. So that's going to be tough. I'd say as a whole, this is not going to be necessarily easy. Like, just because these plants are rare, which means they may or may not be there. Rare plants tend to, or can be sometimes very hard to see, and they could be in different, life stages depending on time of year. One other note with this interface is these are where people have found these plants before, but some of these points are from like the 1800s or the 1930s. And GPS didn't exist during that time either. So when we hit these points, even though this is someone's either best guess as to where this was found from looking at the specimen that was collected and the notes that were given and the habitat that was given and the directions that someone wrote down. So these points do not mean that if you directly hit it, that the plant is going to be there. Like, or because some of this stuff also is as I run through it, let me find this link. It's like this person wrote down within a 500-meter radius. So that means this plant was found within 500 meters of where, or we think was in 500 meters of where this point is. Sometimes that's 1 mile, sometimes that's 1,000 meters, sometimes that's 5 miles. So something that's important to answer your question is before people go out, and I think the more of the point of this training or the trainings we would do together is going to also train you guys on when you come onto this interface. The point is, these are where we believe these plants are, as best as we can from historical data. But we'll teach you how to, you know, click on these points, get to this page, but it's going to take research on, hey, make sure that you look before you go on, say, the directions that the scientist wrote. Look at the habitat that the plant's growing in, you know, look at if there's any plants or insects like located nearby. Look at the image that they give, which gives you a picture, you know, and this one's of course flowering, but look at, you know, essentially the collection description. And that's sort of stuff that we'll have to say, like, this is how we're teaching you to go look and research beforehand so that we have the best chance of finding it when we're out there. And something to take note in that is when we look up these plants, and if anyone's familiar with Ackerfield or Seek or INA, you know, any additional materials need to be looked at beforehand to be like, is this flowering now? Like, is it smart for me to go out to this area in July, you know, or not? But we wouldn't necessarily, we can provide anything like rare plant guides or additional materials, like if we can find together images and pictures of like these plants in different life stages, that's stuff I'd love to accumulate. I just can't guarantee that it's fully available since these plants are rare already. But it's going to take a lot of sleuthing on everyone's end, essentially, to kind of figure out, hey, where do we think this plant's going to be? If that is a very long-winded answer to your question. Because it's very likely if something's from the 80s or like the 1800s, this is from 2004, so that's actually probably pretty okay. But like if it's from the 1800s, it's plausible that this plant, that's this point, was actually found over here or over here, over here. It's just giving us the best estimate from what from essentially the collection itself. But we would train you on that. And still recommend going out to these points. Like this is still the closest area we have, but you'll have to be looking for, oh, not go directly to this point and look, but oh, this says maybe it's in bedrock. This is all like, maybe this is taking me to a grassland, but where's the nearest, you know, bedrock or something like that, if that makes sense. So we would try to cover all of the range of sleuthing for before and during that is necessary to ensure no one's going out there, you know, to try to make it as easy as possible. But yeah, the flowering thing is going to be more of like, probably like, hey, looking beforehand, is this one plant flowering during this month? But if it's not, then I'd recommend, you know, if it's going to be harder, it's something that could always wait till the following year. Sort of. But any other questions on that?
In all of these places, you can put the location in your phone and do like a Google map, right? And you would use Google Maps, right, to find these locations?
You can use Google Maps if someone's particularly has Gaia or Onyx. Any GPS can get you close. When we click on these points, the direct coordinates, the closest coordinates that we have, that we know of this plant, that we, you know, are hoping that it's there, is on this map. So essentially, the coordinates can be directly plugged in. And then whether or not, you know, I'm not sure if these are connected to trails. A lot of these are just in wilderness, so that's something to assess too. you know, safety wise. But yeah, you can put this into your phone. And we just highly recommend, to reiterate, read, you know, the habitat that the person found it in, read the type of soil if they put it, read any directions. So this person put BLM land, 11.5 miles west of Pleasant View, across Canyon, collection was near Old Road End. Exactly where the point has been dropped, but we try as much information in here as possible to find it. It was mainly to get you out there, to show you this plant's been found in this area. But if you find the plant, if you find it in different areas, if you find it there again, that's when you use iNaturalist to actually do the point. To say, ah, I found, I'm gonna say spectacle pod, easier than the Latin name. So if you're like, ah, I got out here, but 500 meters somewhere else, but I found it, you know, or I found it walking up. The point on iNat, take your photo of, you know, the plant, and we would also train you in these in this stuff on what we'd want you to take photos of. So we won't just want a general photo of it. We'd probably need close-ups of certain anatomy, close-ups of, you know, just close-ups as opposed to one overview, so that we could actually confirm it as a rare plant. So that's all stuff that would be involved in training, so that everyone felt comfortable. And that way we're not sending you out there and then we can't use the data. But that's a lot. That's nitty-gritty stuff that would be gone over. And any other questions before a shift? Okay.
Okay,
So
go
ahead.
So to summarize, broadband leaders will contact you directly.
Yes.
You will either go out there or send someone out there to train them how to do it. You will it sounds like you will try one together, maybe?
If we can. So yeah, say we're in Colorado Springs. This is quite close to town, you know. So like this point isn't necessarily, I guess, like there's some in Colorado Springs, but I bet this was from like 1979. This plant has probably been grown over. But we can literally drive out here if we want, whatever we want it to look like. You know, we don't just have to go in a rec room and practice this. I'd love to actually be in practice and at least try to do this in person and try to find something if it's out there.
Okay.
Using these tools. I can't guarantee the plant's there, but we'll at least be on the ground knowing, hey, this is what we look at. This is what we're going to be focusing on. And here's how we would go about looking for this.
Okay.
And filling out the form that comes with this as well. So yeah, it'd run through all the nitty gritty. It'd run through what resources we give you to help make this as most successful as possible. Run through, you know, what to make it the most accurate, as well as any other questions that anyone has. And then access to this map.
So the website that I'm seeing up here, the address, that's where this map is, and that's where we would go to see the map.
Yes, this actually is completely public at the moment, but we named
Yeah.
it something weird so that people didn't just go do it.
Okay, yeah, I was looking at that.
Yeah.
Well, what does that stand for? Okay, so it's
Yes.
ARCGIS.
Yeah. So this actually is presently public, but I don't want people going out there yet and then necessarily doing things unless they feel comfortable. But let's say we're doing a thing. And I go and I'm like, I'm in Fort Collins. I can go up to Horsetooth Reservoir today. And I click on this point and I did all my, like, ideally in a sense, oh my God, I'm like, all right, what am I looking for? This narrowleaf milkweed. I need to Google this milkweed before. If I have an acker field, I need to look at the description. field, take a photo of the species. So I have as much detail about it as guide we'd give you. Is it in the rare plant? What habitat does it live in? Anything I can find about this plant that I can find it when I'm out there. Then, so I come into this map and I click on this. Then it gives me information, the SciNet link, which is, and I open it up and I can, oh my God. Maybe. Connected to this, but I can see, all right, this is actually a horrible example because no one. So
1897.
yeah,
Wow.
1897.
Wow.
So this is actually, for the sake of this little demo, this one. So say I'm out in Young Gulch. Let me make sure there's actually something connected to this. Some of these, like this is all the information we have, so it might be super, super nil. No, I want one with a photo. I'm trying to find a good one. Hang on. Okay, so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna walk out here because I have an afternoon and I want to look for this plant. And I'm like, all right, what do we got? We look it up. Now we got front range bluebells. So again, all my background information, look up bluebells, look in the Acker field about what the description of a bluebell is, look up if I can find photos of this species, anything I can find on it that'll make it easier for me to identify it. When does it flower? When does it fruit? You know, what does it fruit look like? Any distinguishing characteristics on it? Does it have hairs? Does it not have hairs? You know, anything that can help define it differently. Then I continue down and I have my SciNet link and information about the person that found it. So though we have America, that's amazing, Fort Collins, but approximately 4 miles northwest of Horsetooth Reservoir and directly northwest of Laurie State Park. So that gives me more information on it. Look at the, if there's elevation, that's a hint on where to look. And habitat. So I'm going to be looking for rocky hillsides with ponderosa pine. And plausibly some land use. Oh, it's a natural area. So probably not in a disturbed area. So the flower color is blue. I can look further at this, zoom into this. And it's the same information, but in case there's some more information, get all my background sleuthing done. Stoked, ready. I walk out there, I follow the directions, and I just start scavenging this area for that type of habitat, getting close to this point. And lo and behold, I find it. Super thrilling. So I would click on the point, and this is editable. So what we'd want you to do when you're back home, you find it. You take a photo on iNat. You record the photo. You put comments in there. You submit it. We can check it and be like, they found it. Sweet. What you'll also do is type in, okay, your organization. So let's say Northern San Juans. That way we know exactly which broadband made it here. Then you put your first and last name. And if there's multiple of you together, you put all your names in there. Your visit date, today, we want you to put your iNat username because we want to make sure that you're going on iNat when you actually record. It's merely a trigger to use iNaturalist, but we want your iNat username. And then you tell us if you found it. So number of volunteer hours. So even if there's 6 of you, just put, oh, we looked for 4 hours. So put 4, but now I know that's 6 times 4 hours worth of time. Then you update it. And when you find it, it changes color. That way, no one else goes there, essentially. We know it's been visited and it's been found, but we don't want people trampling and looking over stuff and going back. And it also signals to us, hey, they found it. We should make sure that we're checking our iNaturalists too. But say, oh my word. I also know this is a lot, so I'm not expecting this to be absorbed today. This is just kind of a very visual run through.
good.
Say you didn't find it. Boop. And then you update. It turns black so that we know you visited this point, but you just didn't find it. Say you were intending to make it out to this GPS point, but you didn't fully make it there. You made it within a mile of it or something. You know, you search the area. That's when you put something like unsure or other. Or say, oh, I'm showing up, but this is now a complete burn scar. Like the plant's probably not there because the entire area is burned down because it's in Cameron Peak. No need to go walk 2 miles to the point. But you'll put unsure or other, and that turns the point blue. Because at the end of the day, we also want you to use this to chart your hours so that we know where you went or tried to go, so that we know what area was covered. And we are going to add a comment section to this so that also you guys can put in comments if you want to say, hey, we did not make it out all the way to this point, but we found the species a mile this way, or 500 feet this way, or, oh, we saw this was actually covered in weeds, you know, any relevant comments to be put in here on top of that. But that's sort of, not to just talk so much, but that was sort of the run through, and then you can see everyone who's been somewhere. So if I fill this out and update it and you click on this point, you can see Jessica Cheadle's been there and found that plant, you know, something like that. Sorry, that was a lot, but how are you guys feeling?
Yeah, how are you feeling about all this? Let's have a chat about it, and welcome Diane, and I think Sherry is with us now.
Yes.
We have a couple more people who've joined. What do y'all think?
I wish Peggy were here because this is her, I'm sure she'd want to be doing this, and I would definitely work with her on it. And when we did this before on Uray County, there were quite a few people that were interested. So pretty sure that that will be something that she'll want to do, and there'll be others.
That's kind of what I'm thinking too with Joyce Stevenson is kind of see if she wants to be the leader on this project, because she knows much more about it, the plants and everything, than I do. But I wonder, do you see it? Can you look on that map? I mean, just quickly and see if there's any orchids in Montezuma County?
Yeah. Let me see.
Can you search?
So there still might, just so as a note, there still might be orchids. There can be other plants, but these are just ones that are publicly available. So does it mean that other plants aren't there? This is just the records that we publicly have.
I think it must be rare. I mean, I don't know why everybody would be so excited about it if it wasn't a rare plant. And orchids are all kind of rare, aren't they?
Yeah. Can you actually guide me to Montezuma County?
The bottom left corner.
Down here?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. I'd have to go through each point. Show me.
And Jennifer, this is something that you can do on your I mean afterwards, right?
Oh yeah, I just wondered if it was something you could search for, like, you know, like go to Montezuma County and say orchids.
Let me see.
And then it shows you the different orchid things.
No, tragically, no. I think I can only search kind of for like geographic location, like an address. But aside from that, it would kind of be like, oh, I'm in Montezuma County. This is actually just.
Can you search Ryman Creek then on there?
Can you spell that for me?
RHYMAN. I think that's how you spell it.
let's see. It's giving me, oh, here, it did do it. It did do it.
Oh, there it
here's-
is.
Yeah,
Oh,
here's,
yeah, there's no H, RYMAN.
it was giving me disappointment. Oh, here it is, Ryman Creek. So it looks like nothing from what's on this map is there, but that does not mean rare plants are not there. It just means they haven't been publicly identified.
So if we're going next week, so if we see some, do we take pictures and just see if there's something you want?
Yeah, so say you're going next week and you find a rare plant, what we would then say is go make sure you're joined onto the CNHP iNaturalist page and group, and take an iNat observation. So yeah, make sure you're, but more importantly, make sure you're like joined to that group, like, because that's the only way we can monitor it. Then take a photo of it, get close-ups of it, get close-ups of the leaves or the flowers or the petals, stuff that's definitive, that define what that species is if we're assuming it's rare, and upload it as an INAT point. Because if it's rare, like, we check that on our end and then we make it an element occurrence if it's accurate in our system. So yeah, that's what we recommend.
And-
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I'll
what
see
do
if
the-
Joyce wants to, get involved and see if maybe she'll even contact you before we go. So she might already know all this. I mean, I have no idea.
Yeah, and like that one page, that's our engagement page. Hang on, I'm gonna try to, it's gonna give me grief here. The engagement page. So if anyone ever needs to be trained on how we want you to use iNat and how to sign up, the links are here. And I can, again, I'll put it into this chat. And I'll link in still the CNHP species tracking list still tells you all the species that are in a county. It just doesn't, we don't know where in that county. Or we can't share with every single piece of data where, because it's a privacy problem. So the only points that we can share with you are these because they were public record in the first place. So we have more, but we're not able to, we can't share it with the public legally. But let me see. Sorry. I'll share this
So
in here.
what do the rest of you think of this idea?
As well as ways to make it simpler, like, and more user friendly.
Fran, you popped up.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds fun. I think that there's a lot of potential here, and I also like that it's not something that we're trying to get done in one season or a year or 2 years. So that's kind of helpful. So if I understand it right, I go out to Blue Stem Open Space, and I know that I need to look for I have no idea about plants, so I'm going to make up a name, the Blue Stem Daffodil. And I'm looking for that one. And so, oh my gosh, I've read my stuff. I know what it looks like. There it is. I go into the iNaturalist app. I go into the group that, the heritage group, CNHP, and I do my due diligence. I take video, take a picture, I identify it, I get all the details of the plant. And then, yeah. And then I guess is the extra information that you put in about what broadband you're with and who you are and who was with you, is that part of the iNaturalist information, or is that an additional step to take when you're back home?
Yes, good question. Tragically, these are two different steps. So yeah, so essentially when you're on the map, it's like, here's information on this plant, right? Here's a GPS point, and here's plausibly a photo of it, and here's the habitat it's in and its name and the closest coordinates we could we even have on it, you know? However, and so that's where you would fill in, and I was trying to get it on mobile, but I can't guarantee that that's plausible. Plus, there's no service out there anyway. So like, it's actually probably something that has to be done back home.
Okay.
But when you're back home, it's something I'm weighing with. When
So
you're
there's
back
another
home,
step to take. The
there's
reason I was
another step.
asking, I'm wondering, is it like all one thing, da 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 da, yay,
It's
I'm
2
done?
steps. So there's,
Or there's
yeah.
another, okay,
So there's the INAT step, and then the I went to this point, did I find it or not? And here's my name step, essentially.
okay.
Yeah, so there's 2 steps for recording.
Sally
The
knows how
more-
I am about.
I know. No, I wish we were trying to figure out if
Another
we can.
step.
We were trying to figure
No,
out how to
it's,
make this
and
one step, and like we were like, crap, to do that, we have to give everyone GIS accounts and this and that, which is then even more steps at the end of the day. And then GIS itself is like tragically difficult.
Yeah.
And then we had this as a spreadsheet, and everyone's like, let's just have them record everything in a spreadsheet. And I'm like, they're not going to record this in a spreadsheet. I don't like a spreadsheet. Like, we're not doing that.
Right.
So this is unfortunately as simple as we can get it at the moment. Because we do need that INAT actual record. We can't have you guys putting in, if we had you guys putting in on this interface, like a photo and a form, it's actually a whole new app that we need to download and make a very specific field form for. So tragically 2 steps. It is actually, it makes me upset. Tragically 2 steps though. But the more important step is honestly the iNaturalist step.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone's forgotten to record, like in the thing, like, you know, in that thing, but you went to that point, we're still going to see, oh my God, someone says there's a rare plant here. Like iNaturalist is more important, and we can always go, I don't want them to be, I would love both of them to happen, but if one was going to happen, I care about INAT because
Okay.
that's the
And you
actual
can always
thing.
go back, or you can say,
Mhm.
hey, you found that and we need you to do
Yeah.
this. Right.
We can say, hey, can you fill this in? Or hey, tell me what you did and I'll fill it in, you know, on that
Yeah.
interface. But yeah, the INAT
Okay.
though is at least definite, like
On the
important
spot.
one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
and
Well,
what other,
iNaturalist naturally puts for the average person looking at an observation. If it's rare, it puts a big periphery around it so that other people can't just go running there.
Mhm.
But because it's in your project, you do get to look exactly.
Yeah, we get to see exactly where it's at, but no one else will get to see exactly where
Mhm.
it's at. And we don't want anyone to purposefully blur anything, I believe, because again, INAT does that on its own. It's
Mhm.
like, this is rare.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, especially since there's multiple steps and multiple research things to this, I think a training as well as stuff like that is definitely helpful.
Very
okay,
important. Right?
Very
so,
important.
does anyone else have any questions that haven't asked any questions yet?
Mhm.
And Sherry, we're going to share the recording with you because you came in at the very last minute.
Yes.
It's a geocaching exercise. It's advanced geocaching for plants.
Yeah.
It's not as simple as just finding a geocache, but it's very similar.
Mhm.
Diane or anyone else, does anyone else have any questions?
I don't think so. It'd be great to have the recording.
Mhm.
Okay. And you all know that you can contact Jess directly and just CC me
Mhm.
on CC me because I wanna know what you're doing. And do you have any time frame that they should connect with you?
Yeah, so I just put my email in the chat. I'm also gonna put my phone number in here. Because I don't mind getting text messages. I just need to know who you are. If you're contacting me, just give me your name. Sometimes like phone is easiest for me. I think if this is of interest, I'd love to know like sooner rather than later. So that way, if we want to start up any trainings, we can do that, you know, as soon as we can. Like as well as I'm still going to be prepping materials for this. And like if I don't hear from anyone, I'll probably make a webinar about it so that I can at least send it out to you guys and people can start doing it, you know, without an intensive training. if it's of interest or if we can't get a time down. But if it's of interest, I'd love to know this month. That way I can start planning next month, like to do things in person and get out there.
So this is
Especially-
the very end of May.
So yeah, are you
Mhm.
talking
So
May?
are
Oh,
you
sorry,
talking about
sorry.
May or June?
June. I'd love to know by early June.
You got a day?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you're
Yeah.
interested, contact Jess by early June and,
Mhm.
you know, talk directly with her about next steps.
Yeah. And
Does
even
that
if
make
this,
sense?
Yeah.
and even if this pops up as, oh, we're not thinking about this until July, you're welcome to email me then. But of course, it just means like it's just later in this year. But this is stuff we're hoping to do for 3 or 4, for years. So if a training can't happen until later this summer, that's okay. Like, I can always try to figure out what I can get people in the interim, before we do something in person. But we could still get you trained at some point, and have people feel confident or ready, even if it's later on, in the summer. But early June would be best, and then I can hit you all up as soon as I can. And get people feeling good as soon as I can, or at least figure out what can we do to make people feel good and get out there as soon as I can, even if I can't physically be out there, with you. So, or something. But yeah, this is iterative. I want to exaggerate as well. This is something we're asking your feedback on. Like, this is a bit of a guinea pig experiment. It's changeable, it's evolutionary, it's what you guys also need to succeed with this. So that's what we're hoping for. And you'll probably get emails
Okay.
from me if I don't hear from anyone. I'll be like, hey guys.
Yeah, and I can. And broadband leaders, is there anything you need me to do other than provide the recording and Jess's phone number and contact information? Anything else needs to happen on my end?
No, that sounds good.
Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Does anyone else have anything else to say for the good of the meeting?
I just mentioned our next meeting is not until the end of June, so I may not be able to get back right away. But I will talk to some people individually and see what they think. I think there's interest, but it may take a while to get a group together for a training session.
That's totally okay. Yeah. Sally, I wondered, could you guys send me your emails of like who was here today as well?
Oh,
or
I need to
list?
write I need to write everybody's name down. Okay, so
Because then I can also follow up with just progress as well and materials we're building and see where people are at. Because this next month for just timeline, I'm out the first week of this week of June because I'm in Rifle Ranch, which I'll see some of you there. Then I'm out the next week because there's a Louisville Bio Blitz that we're running. And then so the second half of June, I'm really like diving in to starting on what materials we need, building group files, building like a training, building an orientation curriculum. So that's the only reason the timeline is a little bit later. I just have
okay,
2
and
weeks of June.
who's on iPhone 3?
All it says.
That's all it says.
Can't tell.
I don't know who's on iPhone 3.
No.
Okay.
It's okay.
And I will, just so you know, I will send out at some point in the next, probably in the next week, about when we're going to have our next meeting. Just the
Okay.
Colorado broadband leaders. We skipped our last meeting because not one single person could make it, so we canceled. So that
Okay,
was
fair.
probably a wise decision on my part. But we'll figure out when we're going to have our next meeting. Yeah, we'll figure it out. So there's lots to talk about. Yeah, I've been sending you a lot of stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna close this meeting in the in the interest of time. And thank you so much for joining. And if you all
Yes.
have any questions or feedback you want to give me directly, that's great. And then I'll share your information with Jess and we'll get things going.
Thanks, Jess.
Okay?
Sounds good.
Thanks, Sally.
Thank you all.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Have a
thank you
lovely
guys.
weekend.
Yeah. And we'll see you next time, whenever that is.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.